right, we left off last time talking about the Supreme Court case, Lau v. Nichols. It was the first Supreme Court case where the Lau family sued the school district because their child was given the same desk and materials as English speakers, but was not taught in a way that she understood. So the Supreme Court found in favor of the family, and as a result, the school district was required to take affirmative steps to overcome educational barriers. And what happened was when the Supreme Court case was resolved, the federal government needed to step in and turn that court decision into federal law. So if you're following along with your handout packet, you can just draw a little arrow between the Supreme Court case and the Equal Educational Opportunities Act. They go hand in hand, and basically the EEOA is the Lau decision turned into federal policy. So as far as your exam is concerned, I will only have one of those listed on the exam because essentially they say the same thing. All right, so that takes us to the 80s. So I was in school in the 80s, the later 80s. So this is definitely within my lifetime in terms of education. But let me explain what was happening in this court case. This took place in Texas, and the Castaneda family sued the school district because of a policy that they had. So let me explain the policy. When children were enrolled in school, they were placed in English classes solely based on their last name or their ethnicity. So all of the Joneses, Millers, Smiths were placed in English 101, and all the Castaneda, Munoz, Perez students were placed in English as a second language class. And that was the way that it was decided. And the family said to the school, wait a minute, our child does not need ESL classes. Our child, and I don't know if the child was bilingual or if the child only spoke English, but either way, the child did not need help learning English. So the family went to the school and explained that to them, and the school said, nope, that's the way that we operate our classes, and we're not going to change. So the family took the school district to court and won the court case. And as a result, the court said that programs for English learners need to have some sort of quality control. And what they did was they developed what we call a three-pronged test. And I have it listed here, but I have it on another slide that I think it might be a little clearer. So as a result of the Castaneda v. Pickard decision, school districts must now evaluate the program that they have in place for English learners. And they evaluate the program based on these three questions or topics. We call it the three-pronged test. So the first is that their program must be based on sound educational theory. So that means that it must be research-based. It can't be based on something arbitrary like someone's last name. We need to have a theory behind what we're doing. The second test is that the district is implementing it effectively with resources, meaning there's a budget of some sort, there are teachers or personnel dedicated to this program. But what it doesn't say is the certification of those people, the amount of money set aside. Like, it doesn't give specifics. So you'll see later on we get a little more specific. And the last prong of the test is that basically districts need to evaluate if their program is effective. So, for example, placing all English learners into study hall during ninth period and we say, oh, that's their ESL program, that is not going to be effective. So, as a result of this court case, districts now must prove these three things when creating a program for bilingual children. All right, so that takes us to the 80s, and we have our second Supreme Court case, the Plyler v. Doe decision. And let me explain what was happening. So essentially, here's the violation. When children were attempting to enroll in public school, the school district was requiring that students show that they were U.S. citizens. So they had to show a social security number, or they had to show some sort of birth certificate that said, I'm a U.S. citizen. And what was happening was undocumented children were being turned away. And the question was, remember back to our Civil Rights Act, you weren't allowed to turn away a student based on their language. Well, the districts were saying, well, we're not turning them away based on their language. We're turning them away because they're not citizens. So they took the case the whole way through the court system to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, you know what, school districts, your job is not to enforce immigration law. That's not your role. Your role is to educate the children that live in your geographic region of your district, and you are not to deny them access if they aren't citizens. So what I'm going to do is actually stop this section of the video right now, because I want you to click on this YouTube link. And I want you to watch just the first 10 minutes of this conversation with undocumented youth. I think it's really important for us to realize that we will teach children who are undocumented. And I want you to hear from people who are your age, really, talking about what it's like to grow up in the public school system and to be undocumented. So I'll stop the video here. You can watch the first 10 minutes or so. And like I said in the previous video, if you want to count this for cultural hours, feel free to watch. It's a long panel discussion. So feel free to watch more of it if you'd like. That's totally up to you. And then we'll jump back in where we left off. Thanks.